Welcome. Hope you had a meaningful Yom Kippur. We're now facing the beautiful celebration of Sukkot, the time where we celebrate and we are to be joyous. We hold the lulav as a victory symbol, like a sword, like a festive sword, like a victory march. We shake the lulav. We're shaking up from Yom Kippur, and now we're just staggering with joy. And you sit in your backyard in your sukkah with your family and get closer with joy. That is associated with the state called Bina, mother, which is understanding, as opposed to what Yom Kippur is Shabbos Shabbosing, the Sabbath of all Sabbaths. It has to do more, when the Sabbath is usually associated with Malchus, it has to do with Abba, the Father, which is wisdom. So wisdom is something that's still and it's a listening, whereas Bina is a celebration. Bina, understanding. When you understand something, it's not just beyond you. It's a staggering experience of bittul, but it's one that's celebrated outwardly. So this is the mimer of the Rebbe Ma'arash. He's explaining this, why it's specifically Bina that celebrates. The main difference is that it says that in Atzilut, Abba Maknana be'Atzilut, the world of Atzilut, the highest world, that is where Father, wisdom, nestles. Beriah ima ilah, haynu bina, maknana b'kursaya hi ilm habriya. And in the created world, welcome, ima ilah, the supernal mother, Bina, nestles there in the world of creation. So when you understand the difference between the divine world of Atzilut, the highest world, compared to the created consciousness of Beriah, you understand the difference between wisdom and understanding, and why we celebrate understanding, and we absorb the wisdom of Chochmah on Yom Kippur, for example. So now we're going to understand the vast difference between wisdom and understanding in terms of their source. Because it comes out that wisdom of Father is much higher than the understanding of Mother. So then why are we celebrating specifically Bina? If Abba is so high, why are we so quiet on Yom Kippur? It's true though, Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, God bless him and his holy work, he posted about how Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah are all about singing. So I thought that was beautiful, and sort of runs contrary to what we're saying here, but it's not an outward celebration on Yom Kippur. You're fasting and you're davening, and on Sukkot, which is facing us, we celebrate. So why, if what Yom Kippur represents is loftier, why do we not celebrate it outwardly with a big party? The Kairn as a Hallel, and it's specifically on Sukkot that we say the praise called Hallel from the Psalms. Whereas Shabbos, which is related to Abba, to wisdom, is a day of rest. It's not a day of praising so much. You don't say Hallel on Shabbos. So there's this distinction and a different way to express different things. The more articulate is Bina, understanding. When you say Hallel, you are expressing yourself, you're praising Hashem. Bina, we'll see, has more to do with the person than Chochmah has to do with the Creator. So to understand really what the mind of Mother is, we're going to understand this in light of the two ways you can experience the divine, the infinite light of Hashem. This is a bit of review, isn't it? It's probably worthwhile to, even if it is overlapping a bit. I don't know for sure if you remember every single word. So the way that infinity relates to the created worlds that have an order of sort of stepping down the wattage to a way that relates to each level. It's usually most relevant to consciousness. Then please define the creative force. So reality is divine, and that is the creative force that decides, as it were, to make a denial of that reality and a journey of the soul to find that truth. Welcome, Sean. Good to see you. I would say l'chaim, but we haven't done it yet. We did yesterday, of course, all day long, didn't we? Wow, what a miracle that is that the Jewish people are so holy on Yom Kippur. Let it last in whatever way it is throughout the year. Now we're preparing for a massive celebration. So that's what we're trying to understand here. Bina is what we celebrate, the holiday of Sukkot. So we're saying there's two ways to experience the divine reality that's going to help us understand this difference in what's celebrated and what is revered, perhaps. So the step down hishtalshelus that creates the conscious world is cause and effect. It's by refraction of light into different, look it up in Tanya, Shar Yichud V'Emunah, K'mashal Seichel B'midas, U'midas Machshava, Seichel B'chinas Hishtalshelus Nikro, B'derech Klal Yesh Yash Miyash. So, we see this in our own experience, that we have a mind and we have emotional life and we have thought, speech, and action. So that's basically our character and the way we express it in the three garments of the soul. That has its own Seder Hishtalshelus, its own system, where it starts with mind. But even mind, we say, is yesh miyesh. It's something that comes from something that's already created. So therefore it's causal. It's a bit hard. And the way that God set up the world is that the cause wants to find expression in its handiwork, its creation. So you have a cause and effect. The cause wants to show its signature on the effect. That's just the nature of the world. Just like a master teaches his student, his disciple, that by teaching him, you transferred intelligence from one person to the other. Then on his own, the student would not have been able to come up with that. Here it is on a silver platter. And although the sages say that it takes 40 years to understand your teacher, that is showing the connection that after some time you absorb the teaching, it was already there to begin with. So the author is expressed in the ability to communicate that to the next generation of students. Do you see the connection here yet? No. So you see this connection also that exists for sort of from cause to effect in the way that mind gives rise to character, and the strength of character depends on the strength of your internalizing that idea through hisbaininus, through meditation. Also, our thought and speech is to the power that's associated with the emotional content behind it. If you don't care about something, you're not screaming like a chicken about it. So the second way you could experience divinity is something that has nothing to do with the natural order, and that cause seeks to find expression in the effect, but rather one that it comes out of seeming nothingness. The Eshma'ayin, ex nihilo, when you appreciate that you don't come from a system, of a mechanical system that conceals spiritual energy so that it can find its source in the divine itself, but rather an ability to skip that whole process and jump to, like for example, the embrace you feel in the sukkah. You have to have walls in the sukkah to represent how Hashem's reaching back out to us and embracing us, keeping it in everything that we do there. If you play Monopoly in the sukkah, that's it. You're living with Hashem with Monopoly, and wow, that could be important for parents. That's probably my fondest memories of when I was very young, is playing Monopoly with my mom. What else do you remember? Which socks she picked out for you for Yom Kippur? Thank you. So there's a hishtalshus yesh ma'ayin mamash. It's the ma'ila min hishtalshus. It's above the natural order. And how's that come out? V'hayinu ma'ayin hamuchlek. Reality coming out of absolute nothingness. There was nothing and now there's something. Okay, it had a history built into it, so it looks like it's billions of years old. And then the natural process of cause and effect, when you come close to your origin, the matzah l'mayla, going from your initiative, you're trying to find your origin. It's Neo typing in for the first time into the Matrix. Don't they have like a rabbit hole, like with literally a white rabbit coming to the door? So by this process, by showing this initiative and turning your attention to the path of the need of your soul to find its creator, that results in the success of you understanding your cause. And therefore you celebrate it. So you could exist in natural order where the guy in the top of the company is the most important person in the world. And there's a whole Seder Hishtalshlos, a hierarchy of who gets paid more, and therefore the currency of most of the world is money. Whereas here the currency is awareness of your origin. And this is really breaking free of the natural order. The Matrix has a certain code that makes it fair for everybody. And this is really a cracking of the code. It's when you understand the purpose behind it already. It's connecting with the cause of the event, as opposed to being immersed within a whole fishbowl. And when you understand, you feel the connection with your creator, that's a cause of joy. And the joy is so great, it's like a prince that got out of prison and goes back to the father's table, the king. And he sees the face of his father, which is odd because we said this last time, because we gave the example of we're trying to understand Ima, and here it's about Pnei Aviv. But you want to show here how prominent the point of desire is amongst the entire nation, in that the more public expression of that is king. It still means your Bina. So that is the rejoicing of the mortal consciousness in its awareness of its divine origin. So that is a cause of joy. Since you exist within a natural order, that is a world of allegory we live in, and you don't see outwardly. There's a concealment of the divine origin of all that. And so now this revelation is finding expression in the awareness that you're coming out from darkness into a state of redemption. That's what Yom Tov is. You celebrate that your children are not in their phone for a minute. They're forced not to. If they stay at the table for a while and don't run off, that's an incredible miracle of our religion in our times. They are absolutely addicted to these things, and they stay away from them. They have a higher calling. So the whole idea of a holiday, of Sukkot, which is upon us, is The revealing this joy, from the mainstay of the house. Remember we spoke about this. This is still a review, which is Bina. And we say that the mother of the children rejoices. So it's Bina who is associated with joy. So we're trying to understand why is the lower level of mind, the female aspect of mind, the one that's celebrated, and not the masculine Abba, which is wisdom. So here we're calling that force the Ikeres Abayis, Humalashan Akara. Akara could mean uproot, or it could mean foundation, or it could mean barren. So Humalashan Kachulda zu hadara be'ikare batim. It's like we say that the chulda, the weasel, lives in the roots of the house. So it means roots here. Akara is ikare batim, the foundation of the house. That's where you try and uproot them from there. It's much harder than the attic, I suppose. You can shut off the attic. But what is the foundation of the home? Vehi bechinas malchus, and that is the lowest sphere called malchus, sovereignty, the recognition of God's divinity, even on a kingdom. When you create a creation, and that creation submits to Hashem. Malchus has that potential. Shemalu beshas the kol yemin bechel, the biyak the klippus negad. That is accessed or monitored or present in the mundane week, in the created world, in the world, the material world, called klippus nega, this shiny klippa. It has potential to go either way. Ken perish the sefer shailas the Talmud HaRamban Zal the Yom Tavu Eilun Mail Atzilut Bechinas Aim Banim Bina Saga Ba'erin Seif Hanigla. So on a holiday, on Yom Tov, like Sukkot, which is 4 days away, you have an awareness of Bina, an understanding, and Hasaga, you actually have the ability to experience the infinite light of Hashem that's revealed then. And some people, if you're in my sukkah, you can eat it with the soup, even if it's raining. And it's sometimes, especially when it's raining, when you have to have another l'chaim to make it doable even. And your children are out there with you in the rain. And then what happens is the transcendent infinity that's really everything is now something that you can grasp. And what you can understand of the infinite light of Hashem is now revealed. You can feel it. If you don't, I'm telling you, if you don't believe me, come to my sukkah and say l'chaim with me. Or just daven with me sometime. Why don't you? Look at the incredible shul that God blessed us with. That is an absolute miracle. And my son Aaron and my other children were all involved with setting up a miracle in my house. Thank God. I hope you all get a chance to celebrate there with me. Ask me for details in, what do they call it, a direct message, DM. That would be a dungeon master in my day. And how this opportunity of experiencing this joy is so incredible that from the sort of mourning state that we were in Yom Kippur, in like, al-khayt, right, Schnitzel? My dog's coming by for a word. She's afraid of me now, because I tell her not to come and disturb the tefillah. But there's no walls in the 80s. It was all open concept. Still is, isn't it? I haven't given the tour yet. I'm still putting it off. So here you see the transformation of a yagain, like a state of despair, to simcha, to revealed celebration. And being in the darkness, all of a sudden there's a great light. Which is the revelation of the infinite light of Hashem. It probably happens in just like singing with your children in the sukkah. You'll feel it then if you're present. Yesh, which comes down into mortal consciousness in the world of yesh, of ego. To have some kind of grasp of the face of the king that's then revealed. It's revealed in terms that we understand much better in Sukkot. There is laws that allow you to go inside if it's too cold, if it's snowing, or if it's raining. So it's not like we don't care, the Torah would say. It's just that we like to be so heroic and stay out there because we love the mitzvah so much. So Lubavitchers are out there in the rain. We're going to understand this from the idea that this is all review, it seems. I think I went a little bit too early in my selection here for where to start today. But okay, so I'll have to make a longer share maybe. So we're going to understand this with the idea of what the souls experience in the Garden of Eden. That they sit and bask in the splendor of the divine presence. And this delight is absolutely infinite. It says it's better for Acher, the heretic sage, to go down to hell and burn there for how many years? 120 years? In order so that he could merit the world to come. It's that good. We did this last time. Let me just jump forward. Okay. So this is probably closer to where we left off. It compares that to the way that the souls will have to come down to the physical world. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, who's been in heaven for thousands of years, it has to come down to a physical body because he's going to attain a higher state of divine expression here. So he has to come down to do that. That's the promise of their sages, that there will be a world. This is a bit hard to understand, but it says there's not going to be eating or drinking in it. It's just going to be the righteous sitting and enjoying the splendor of Hashem. For this, I don't quite understand it. It seems to praise the world to come. It must be talking about the Garden of Eden there. That there's no eating and drinking. That's just a spiritual bliss. But they too will have to come down into the physical world to experience something even greater. So there's something there's a treasure trapped in the world itself that is going to be revealed. We're going to find why the lowest is always the most important. So the body becomes preeminent. And that's the platform to experience the infinite delight of the world to come. And this is all still review. I went really far with you. And we said that was associated with the level of Sevev, the transcendent aspect of divinity. So that connects back to where we were in the beginning of the class, where we're showing the difference between the two ways where you experience Hashem. One is through Mamala and one is through Sevev. So the world to come, it comes back finally to the topic that the world to come is Bina. The world to come was created with the Yud, which is Chochmah, and that wisdom creates the world to come, which is Bina. So that's also a little bit a difficult passage, it seems to us. Sometimes there's mistakes in the text. It's got all kinds of footnotes on here, so it seems pretty exact, so forgive me if it's confusing. And we understand this in the difference between like the lightning bolt of inspiration that associated with wisdom, that tainug melubash b'kinas arichas davka, and how pleasure is specifically something that is connected with drawing something out. Pleasure is not just a lightning bolt, it's a really good coffee. And just like when you really understand something well, you get great pleasure from it. If you don't know anything about hockey, well, hockey's an exception, baseball, curling for sure, then you're not going to get excited by the guy dusting the floor in front of it. That's absurd. You have to know everything about that sport and live it to care about that. But when you have this lightning bolt of inspiration in your mind, that's not pleasurable. It's just something that's beyond. When you absorb it and tell your friends about it at a camping fire, what do you call it? A campfire? That is the pleasure. You're drawing something out. If you had this incredible out-of-body experience that lasted about 3 seconds, you take about a half an hour to describe that. You draw it out. So the lightning bolt of inspiration is not pleasurable per se. It's beyond pleasure in a way. It's just it's a cracking open of insight. And at first glance, the soul on its own, without a body, does just fine in appreciating this. So there is some confusion here admitted, and here it's expressed as a question. There are different ways that spiritual, the reality of the divine is celebrated. And that is because Bina is a flavored world. Bina is the world of wine, whereas wisdom is the world of water. Water has no flavor or color, whereas a fine wine, there's many different flavors. So although in the Garden of Eden, it is an expression of Bina, so it looks like, what difference? Why do you have to come into a body specifically to experience this? That is a glimmer of Bina in the Garden of Eden, whereas the future to come, when we're in the physical world still, is going to be the true essence of what Bina is, of what understanding is. So we have to understand Bina, which is Ima, mother. We're comparing it to Abba, which is wisdom, in order to bring out what Bina is. Bina is what we're celebrating in Sukkot. So we better understand why. And that's actually the whole sort of, the end game of Hashem is to reward us in the realm of Bina, of understanding. That we come to an understanding that allows us to experience infinity in a different way. That on the experience of Bina, that's what the verse is described as saying, that I have bequeathed to the ones I love, Yesh, which is the 310 worlds, and also the idea of an ego as a discrete conscious being, which everyone's different. So you're a Yesh, and you're going to inherit Yesh, which is the Shai Ilmais, the 310 worlds. That is the impossible of infinity expressing itself within the confines of the matrix that we live in. Whatever world you find yourself in, whatever your experience is, there is some way that you relate to something that is of divine origin. And that's what's going to speak to you in your language. So Bina comes in different flavors. Understanding is tailored to the one who listens to the wisdom or who meditates on it. In order for the soul to experience this radiance from Hashem, the Shekhinah, so this is the celebration of being aware of going out of the darkness of the physical body to an experience of great light. That's usually thought of reserved for the Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. And in the future to come, the body itself will no longer be a hindrance or an obstruction or obscuring agent to conceal the divine origin of everything. The body will have become a chariot or a conduit for that, in fact, to the ultimate degree. So everyone has to come into the physical body again to experience that. In other words, you have a world that has order and laws and rules. And God says, those rules I'm going to break so that you could come to understanding. That you can understand the way I operate and have a particular relationship with each person. And all the events are at least unified and part of a single puzzle. That's the promise of monotheism. It's not that it's sometimes there's some pieces that are difficult to find their place or to stick in when you're trying to shove it into the wrong place. I'm sure you tried that when you were about 4. So the body, we said, was rooted in the idea that only Hashem could create a physical world. A spiritual system, fine. Now you're going to take the rabbit out of the hat completely and make a physical body. That is associated with something called makif, before the system of creation. The way that you have the experience of that within the context of being here in the physical world, of being a material person, and therefore trapped in a body, is through the faculty of Bina, Merkur kol makifim, which is the source of all transcendence. That's hard to understand, because you'd think it would be Chochmah. So Chochmah is more of a direct path. It's the first always, but Bina is sort of rooted in something higher. That's why pleasure is most associated with Bina, with understanding. It has a higher origin, and it's at the level of makif. So I think that's a good explanation. Reish is Chochmah. Chochmah is always the first, but it's not necessarily in origin the highest. Bina is. That's why it says, you go over by foot over the river, and there you will rejoice. This river is the river that comes out of Eden. Shehu Bina, and the river is Bina. Hu Haliyah b'chol regel, and that's the talking about going up in every festival. They went to Jerusalem to the Holy Temple, and they saw miracles before their eyes. V'shahu makar simcha, and that's the source of joy. These 3 festivals, Sukkot is upon us now, are the source for the entire joy in your whole life. So since it's the source of joy, it's associated with revelation, it's associated with understanding and awareness, and it has a higher source. That's why Ima is what is celebrated. The liyetz b'chinas hasaga, being that it has to do with understanding, awareness, therefore you add this special tefillah, this prayer called Hallel, that you are praising Hashem for the fact that He comes to be revealed in your world. So Hillel also is about the ability for something to be understood in mind and not always unfathomable. That's not any way to go through life, as this random ricochet world that you have to bow your head because you don't know what's coming. That is a very fearful approach to life, and living this and going with faith that this is going to blaze a trail for you. That's a very high elevation above all of that. It goes on to put this in the context of learning Torah and different levels and how that helps you achieve this. I'm trying to get to chapter Yud Beis, and I've become more and more tempted to go back to the Torah to follow the sort of spiritual description of the holiday of Sukkot more directly. This actually deals with it very well because it talks about what Bina is and why we celebrate Bina. But the main thing I wanted to get to in this is how the ultimate reward, we said last week or 2 weeks ago, was Tainug Beriah. And this is the source for that idea. I wanted to bring that out, though, from understanding its place in this incredible mimer. So you'll have a lot more background, and it's just because I wanted to, I want to make sure I understand it right. So I had to learn all of this, and I said this is very good to share. Okay, so I think I'm going to probably stop here, even though that was entirely review, but I'm going to try and make a better bookmark. Maybe I'll make a screen capture. Okay, here it comes back in chapter 8. So I'm going to make a screen capture. I should link this. It's just available with a link. So it's just like a few minutes of effort that everyone could watch this in real time. You got to learn Hebrew, the first stuff. And then you got to learn a lot of acronyms, because most of it's written like that in short form. So that makes it difficult for the best Hebrew speakers to absorb this. There's only so many, so you get used to them just like you learn a new flavor of ice cream. Rocky Road was once not a rocky road. It was like a grassy field more. And you didn't know that there was such a flavor. I was around during the someone had to invent different flavors. Baskin Robbins didn't have 31 before it was opened. They had to invent a few. Pink bubblegum, why not? Let's come up with some flavors to make it, I always marveled at how when you present something, if you span it out more, if you give more options, you feel, wow, this place is great. Yaakov did the same to Esav, his brother, when he's appeasing him. He gives him 7 layers of the whole horizon filled with all these, basically the equivalent of like a Tesla or something. In those days it was like a bull and a camel. So he gets this fleet of camels. You draw something out, and it's okay. That goes with what we learned today about you draw out pleasure as Bina, it's drawn out. Anyways, I'm drawing out my speech, aren't I? There's a lot I wanted to learn from you. I actually find it painful that I don't have enough time to go through all of this, and you don't have enough time either. So, Hashem, please bless us all. I have to learn this stuff with you. You got to make a commitment to it. If you guys have like a time you want to make this proper, just text me about that. And if enough people are serious, then we can have a serious class for half an hour every day. Specific time, we'll get organized. It's impossible. Anyways, Hashem, maybe we'll make another miracle. Who knows? It's Play School Asena this year. It's a year of miracles and redemption and what's important to you. Have a great day and a great Isru Chag.